Levy reporting for us, and bring in the former Israeli government spokesperson, Eylon Levy, on all of this. Always good to see you as well. Let me put up Netanyahu's quote on the screen. We're maintaining continuous contact with our friends of the United States, and I speak with President Trump almost on a daily basis. My people and his people are in contact on a daily basis. There is full coordination between us. There are no surprises. You think that's true?
Well, one hopes it's true. Israel and the United States operated extremely closely together during Operation Epic Fury, so closely that American planes were refueling Israeli jets in the skies. But I think everyone in the Middle East will be looking with concern at the possibility that the United States might walk away without fully ending the threat of Iranian aggression. Let's remember what's at stake here. This is the world's #1 state sponsor of terror, pursuing nuclear weapons, pursuing ballistic missiles and drones that they've fired at cities across the region, and arming proxy armies across the Middle East. That needs to end in a deal. We can't have a deal that ends up reopening the Strait of Hormuz, which was opened before the war, and putting temporary restrictions on the nuclear program, which was the Obama deal that President Trump pulled out of because it was so terrible. But here in the Middle East, there will be very serious concern that this will not be seen all the way to the end. And they will be calling on the United States to keep up the maximum pressure on the Iranian regime, because if this does not end with the containing of Iranian aggression right now, then Iran will continue to attack its neighbors, just as we saw it did throughout Epic Fury.
So then is what Netanyahu's doing in Beirut, as was just described, the strike going after a Hezbollah commander, part of trying to, because of some of those concerns you talked about, get ahead of this and get as much in as possible before whatever is agreed to is agreed to?
I think we need to be honest that ceasefire never really came into effect. Every single day, Hezbollah has been firing rockets at northern Israel. It's been firing drones at Israeli soldiers. One was seriously injured today by those exploding drones. The war with Iran's proxy army, Hezbollah, did not end. It just moved to a lower intensity conflict. And today, Israel saw a very high-value target. We're talking the commander of the Radwan force, that's Hezbollah's elite special forces, and decided to take him out because he is currently orchestrating a Lebanese army that is plotting and carrying out attacks against Israeli civilians. But definitely, Israel does not want this conflict with Hezbollah to end, with Hezbollah still in control of huge parts of southern Lebanon, still able to rearm and rebuild that force. And that is exactly what will happen if this ends with Hezbollah still on its feet. And the Lebanese government, we can talk about this too, chickening out of a direct confrontation with Hezbollah.
The government, chickening out how?
Well, the Lebanese government is not remotely serious about a genuine peace deal with Israel. And the Lebanese prime minister said it himself today. He said he does not want normalization with Israel. Normalization is exactly what viewers at home think of when they think of peace. It means having an ambassador in each other's country, having business and trade ties, having flights and tourism. He's saying he doesn't want that. Not only does he not want that, he wants to disarm Hezbollah through direct discussions. That's a euphemism for asking them nicely. And so there's concern in Israel that the Lebanese government is just trying to buy time to get an Israeli withdrawal that will allow Hezbollah to rearm instead of seriously dismantling this Lebanese militia that takes its orders from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps in Iran.
Final thing, what is your sense of what's actually happening in Iran? All these talks about whether there'll be a deal or at least a framework of a deal in place soon. We just got a CENTCOM, U.S. Central Command, a headline out of Tampa, Florida, that says the operating forces there in the Gulf of Oman enforced the blockade by disabling an Iranian flagged ship today, an oil tanker that they say was attempting to sail towards an Iranian port this morning, our time in New York, about 9 o'clock in the morning, the announcement coming out this afternoon. So, you know, that would have been the type of headline we got the last couple of days. I know the blockade's still in effect. The exchange of, the opposite of pleasantries, I guess, is still in effect. What's really going on there, do you think?
I think it's going to be very difficult to get a deal with Iran that ends this war on terms acceptable to the United States and the West. And that's not only because the Iranians have shown no willingness to give up their doomsday weapon of their nuclear weapons capability, but also because it's not clear who's in charge. in Iran. The entire leadership was decapitated at the beginning of the war. They sent a huge delegation to negotiations, clearly to keep an eye on each other. It looks like the Revolutionary Guard Corps is in charge. General Vahidi is calling the shots. But to the extent that the Revolutionary Guards are in charge, those are the hardliners of the hardliners who are opposed to any deal that will see Iran no longer a threat to the region. So I hope we get a deal that ends the threat of Iranian aggression. I struggle to see how we get that.
Don't you get a sense, though, that President Trump just wants out of this?
I think President Trump is right to want to end this war, but the war has to end without Iran in possession of the highly enriched uranium that it could quickly enrich and make a nuclear bomb out of. It has to end without Iran rebuilding the ballistic missiles it used to fire at Dubai airport and oil refineries across the Middle East. And it definitely can't end with immunity for Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, which is what Iran was demanding. Everyone here wants to see this conflict end and the global economy rebound, but the crisis of the world's #1 state sponsor of terror pursuing nuclear weapons, ballistic missile, and proxy armies, that needs to be dealt with too.
Eylon Levy, live from Tel Aviv. Always appreciate your time. Thank you, sir. Now, one thing that we have seen today is the